Welcome to the New Life Stories channel. We hope you will have fun with us. Enjoy watching. The echo of the ticking clock seemed to taunt me as I sat in the dimly lit living room, which had become more a museum of memories than a haven for the couple. Brandon's work had consumed him, turning him into a mere shadow that appeared and disappeared from our home. Even before we were married, I knew he was a hard worker, but I had no idea how it would affect our relationship. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows on the empty spaces around me, I found myself in a maelstrom of loneliness. Brandon's chair, once a familiar haven for shared laughter and quiet conversations, stood empty. His absence was palpable, a silent force pressing against the walls of our home. Brandon, I whispered his name into the empty room, as if calling him back. But he remained elusive, lost in the maze of his career. The door would creak open and I would lift my head, expecting to see him, but it was only a draft and another sign of his continued absence. One night I couldn't contain my frustration any longer. "Brandon, can we talk?" I pleaded, unspoken hurt in my voice. His response was a half-hearted promise to spend more time at home, an assurance that meant little as the days turned into weeks. Dialogue became a rarity, replaced by the stinging silence of his prolonged absences. "You're never here." I finally voiced the truth that lingered unspoken between us. His reply, a weary acknowledgment, did little to mend the growing chasm. As the loneliness entrenched itself, I tried to cling to the memory of the man I married, the one who laughed freely and shared dreams of a future entwined. But the relentless march of time had transformed him into a stranger, leaving me with the remnants of a love story fading into the shadows. The weight of my suspicions hung in the air like a storm brewing on the horizon. Nights became restless, haunted by the shadows of doubt. My journey into the abyss of mistrust began innocently enough, fueled by the nagging feeling that something was amiss. One day, while Brandon was away on another mysterious business trip, I couldn't resist the urge to delve into the secrets he held tightly. As I rummaged through the pockets of his abandoned suit, my fingers brushed against a receipt, an ominous slip of paper that held the keys to the clandestine world he had hidden from me. "What are you hiding, Brandon?" I muttered, my voice a whisper against the thunderous pounding of my heart. The receipt bore the name of a hotel near a house, a damning testament to his betrayal. My mind raced, attempting to comprehend the unraveling truth. Confrontation seemed inevitable. When Brandon returned, I summoned the courage to challenge him. "Is there something you're not telling me?" I demanded, the tremor in my voice betraying my vulnerability. His eyes darted away, a fleeting admission of guilt. "I can explain," he began, but his words held a fragility that mirrored the fractured state of our marriage. "It's not what you think. You're never here, and now I find this." I brandished the damning evidence, my anger bubbling to the surface. His attempts to pacify me were feeble, leaving the chasm between us wider than ever. "In a moment of desperate candor," he admitted, "I've been struggling, Charlotte, but it's not what you think. Trust me." Trust, the currency of a failing marriage, now devalued. As the conversation unfolded, the secrets spilled forth like a torrent, leaving us standing on opposite shores of a truth that threatened to capsize our vows. The road to divorce, once an unspoken thought, now lay ahead, marked by the shattered remnants of trust and the echoes of unanswered questions. The decision to unravel the threads of a once promising marriage weighed heavily on my heart. The room felt suffocating as Brandon, and I attempted to navigate the treacherous terrain of our broken relationship. Divorce, an ominous word that echoed in the silence, hovered over us like an uninvited guest. "Charlotte, I never wanted it to come to this." Brandon's voice quivered with a mixture of remorse and resignation. He avoided making eye contact, perhaps unable to face the consequence of his actions. I, too, struggled to find words in the vacuum of the crumbling space between us. "We can't go on like this," I finally uttered, my voice a whisper that betrayed the hurricane of emotions within. "I need more than empty promises and fleeting moments." The conversation veered between nostalgia and accusation, the past and the present colliding in a dance of shattered dreams. "Remember the island? The one you always wanted to visit?" Brandon's attempt to inject a note of optimism fell flat, his words unable to bridge the growing gap. "Promises don't mean much if they're never fulfilled," I retorted, the weight of unmet expectations hanging in the air. The decision to divorce became a mutual acknowledgement that our paths had diverged irreparably. As we signed the papers that would sever the last remaining ties, the air grew thick with the finality of our choice. "Maybe it's for the best," Brandon mumbled, a faint glimmer of acceptance in his eyes. But beneath the veneer of maturity, the wounds of a fractured marriage festered. The divorce decision, though mutual, left an indelible mark on our souls. The chapter that had begun with promises and hope ended with the bitter taste of reality, a reality that demanded we go our separate ways. The prospect of a life untethered by vows and commitments seemed within reach, a bittersweet freedom hanging in the air. Little did I know, the script of our story was about to take an unexpected turn, one that would shatter preconceived notions and rekindle a flicker of empathy. One evening, as the remnants of our marriage lingered in the air, Brandon sat me down. His eyes, once avoiding mine, now held a somber truth that eclipsed the pain of our recent decisions. "Charlotte, there's something I need to tell you," Brandon began, his voice weighed down by the gravity of his revelation. The room seemed to constrict around us, each breath an arduous endeavor. What could possibly be left to say? I replied, my tone laced with a mix of exasperation and resignation. "I'm terminally ill," he confessed, his words hanging in the air like an oppressive storm. The room's silence morphed into a suffocating reality. My mind, clouded by the recent turmoil, struggled to comprehend the magnitude of his revelation. A spectrum of emotions danced across Brandon's face: anticipation, fear, and a hint of vulnerability. "I didn't want you to carry this burden with me," he continued, his gaze pleading for understanding. "You're sick?" The words escaped my lips, their weight sinking in. The chasm between us, once defined by anger and betrayal, now widened to accommodate the shock of a terminal diagnosis. As the revelation settled, the decision to grant Brandon his final wish, an escape to the island, loomed on the horizon. The impending journey, not one of romantic reconciliation, but a shared venture into the complexities of mortality, held the power to redefine the narrative of our fractured story. The remote island, with its serene scenery and the rhythmic ebb and flow of the ocean, became the canvas for our final chapter. Amidst the palpable tension, a fragile connection emerged, a shared recognition that we had little time left. "Is this really what you want, Brandon?" I asked, standing on the shore of the island, the waves whispering to me the secrets of a once vibrant love, now overshadowed by the reality of mortality. Brandon's eyes, over which the shadows of sickness hovered, met mine. "It's the only way I can spend the time I have left," he replied, and vulnerability peeked through beneath the layers of a facade that had protected him for too long. As the days stretched on, we worked out the intricacies of our newfound companionship. Conversations turned from hurt feelings to memories and laughter, albeit with the bitter flavor of impending loss, echoed through the small corners of our shared existence. "Can you ever forgive me?" asked Brandon one night, his eyes searching me for a glimmer of the emotion I had so fiercely guarded. "For what?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "For the divorce. For the pain I caused you. I only wanted to save you from unnecessary suffering, though it turned out the other way around. He confessed, his words carrying the weight of remorse and hope for my understanding. The island, once a symbol of unfulfilled promises, transformed into a poignant backdrop for our final act. We embraced the simplicity of shared sunsets, quiet conversations, and the solace found in the company of someone who had once been more than a stranger. As the days dwindled, so did the animosity that had defined our past. In the stillness of the island, we found a semblance of peace, a fragile truce between two souls navigating the complexities of life's last chapter. In that vulnerable moment, I softened. Grievances won't change the past. We need to be in the present now, and if possible spend these last days together, I replied. In the aftermath of Brandon's departure, a newfound solitude enveloped the island, leaving behind echoes of his final whispers and the weight of unresolved emotions. Amidst the quiet, I stumbled upon a series of letters, carefully concealed within the confines of his belongings, a trail of words that would unveil the depths of his feelings. As I unfolded the letters, each page seemed to carry the weight of unspoken truths. "Dear Charlotte," began one, its ink stained with the sincerity of a man coming to terms with his imminent departure. The words danced across the paper, revealing Brandon's innermost thoughts, regrets, and genuine love for a woman he had inadvertently pushed away. "I wish I had the courage to say these things to you in person," another letter confessed, the vulnerability of his written words contrasting with the stoicism he had maintained throughout our tumultuous journey. Days turned into nights as I immersed myself in the narrative he had left behind, a narrative of love rediscovered in the face of impending loss. Each letter painted a portrait of a man who had, in his final days, sought redemption through the written word. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow across the island, I read aloud the final letter to the whispers of the wind. The island, which had silently observed the dissolution of our love, now became a canvas for a cathartic release, a closure that surpassed the constraints of time and mortality. As I perused the letters, tears mingled with the salt of the sea, bearing witness to the intricate tapestry of emotions that characterized the concluding chapter of our intertwined narrative. The letter's poignant conclusion, "I'm sorry for everything," echoed through the island's recesses, a plea for forgiveness resonating in the unexpected sanctuary where our love, against all odds, sought solace.